Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day 404. No, I'm sorry, it's 464. 464. June the 17th, 2018, Sunday. Wow. Lots of great comments in the last 2 or 3 days in the comments section. Lots of good links. Too much for me to even get to all of them at this point. Hopefully tomorrow I can catch up on that. But some really great comments, and so good to see everybody is locked in and tuned into what's going on, and are not dissuaded by things like the IG report, which is, of course, something that I don't think is very pleasing to any of us. We'll get into that here in just a moment. But anyway, just great comments, and just love the way everybody's hanging tough and not biting on a lot of the things that are being tossed at us right now. Everybody's got their nose to the grindstone and is refusing to back off. Everybody wants to keep pushing and keep getting to the truth, and that's good. It's very good. Hey, by the way, happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. Well done. Okay, I want to start off by talking about something that was posted up by The Last Refuge over on Conservative Treehouse. And just a few things that he points out that I think are really important that need to be drilled down on just a little bit. And I think they will be. As we see Monday and Tuesday, we have Monday, Horowitz and Wray are going to be in front of the Senate Judicial Committee. And then on Tuesday, which I don't think you'll see much come out of that, but on Tuesday, he will be in front of the House Joint Committee. And there's a lot of good people on that Joint Committee. We'll get to that in a minute. And I think that there's going to be quite a few things that they're going to drill down on, and this is one of them. So let's go ahead and deal with this first thing. It's a few things that are all connected, and they're all connected regarding the laptop of Anthony's Weiner. So we now know, for months now, we've all been trying to speculate on where the hell is the laptop of Anthony's Weiner. Who's got it? Well, we now know who's got it from the IG report. We know that the Weiner laptop is in the custody of the FBI. We can assume that's the main FBI. We know that when the Southern District of New York got that laptop, they went and turned it over immediately to the FBI people at Quantico, Virginia, because that is where they have the resources to get into a computer. Apparently, the Southern District of New York does not either have the technology or the technical ability to do that. So when they got that laptop, they immediately went and turned it over to Quantico, Virginia FBI, where they have the labs where they can actually get in there, and they have the trained analysts who know how to do that. So that is where that laptop went to. It went directly from, as soon as they got the subpoena for it and they went and got it, they took it directly to Quantico, Virginia, to the FBI labs. And once it left the FBI lab, it went to the, once they got what they needed, which they still have. I mean, they just took the data off of it, and then they gave the physical computer to the FBI, which we assume is either in the Southern District of New York, or it's with the FBI, or maybe they've given it back to Abaddon. I really don't know. They really don't need it now. It's just a physical, it's a doorstop to them. They've got the data from it, and that is with the FBI in Quantico, Virginia, and of course they transferred that information to the FBI, the main FBI, where it was given then to Peters Ben Strokinus. That's Peter Strzok, for those of you who are new to my channel. We call him Peters Ben Strokinus because he's been stroking us, as I'll be pointing out to you here. So that is the trail, according to the IG report. That is the path that laptop followed from the time it was subpoenaed to where it is right now, which is important to note. So there were only 3 people once that laptop, the laptop of Anthony's Weiner, was subpoenaed and came into custody. Only 3 people. Think about this. Only 3 people were granted access authority to the Weiner laptop. And that would have been Peters Ben Strokinus, this lawyer identified as lawyer number 2 or attorney number 2, Tash Gauhar, and the analyst whose name we do not know. but he was the analyst at the FBI who signed for the laptop. He's the technical guy, the guy who knows how to get the data off of it. Okay, who's probably in Quantico, Virginia, where the lab is. So we know from the IG report that there were 1,355,980 electronic files on that computer. 1,355,980 files on that electronic files. That's not program files or startup files. That's, files that you would have saved in your personal files. And those files contained 350,000 emails and 344,000 BlackBerry communications. And they were reviewed between October the 30th and November the 6th of 2016. Now, think about that number. 350,000 emails, 344,000 BlackBerry communications, but a total of 1.3 million total files. Now, if you're the tech guy there at Quantico, Virginia with the lab, you're the analyst. When you look at that 1.3 million, you don't know what's what. You have to go through the metadata if it's available, which we know that Clinton had people erasing the metadata from a lot of these files that they would transfer. So this analyst would have to first look at 1.3 million files, and then based on metadata would have to determine which ones will be relevant. In other words, he would be looking for emails, and in this case, emails and BlackBerry communications. So we had about 794,000, it appears, or 694,000 files that were actually relevant to the investigation. Think about that, 694,000. And so we are learning from the IG report that on October 30th is when they received that, as far as Maine FBI, and they begin reviewing it from the 30th of October through November 6th. So basically less than 7 days is all they had to try to go through 694,000 emails. So put this in context to what happened back at that time. Comey comes to us a week before the election and says, oh, we just discovered this laptop of Anthony's Weiner, and it's got all these emails on it. Well, that's not totally true. Maybe Comey just discovered it then, but Strzok and McCabe knew about it. Well, we know for sure Strzok knew about it, as well as this Tash Gauhar, and of course this analyst knew about it, as well as the agents in the Southern District of New York who put together the subpoena to get it. They all knew about it 4 weeks prior. So Comey is wanting us to believe. He comes out, if you remember, he tells us about finding this laptop. He reopens the investigation. Then 2 days later, he comes back and tells us they've gone through everything and gives Clinton the all clear. Well, we're finding out from the IG report that that was impossible. Impossible. First of all, the idea that they went through 694,000 communications that could be relevant to the investigation, and that they did that in 2 days is completely just not believable. But in this particular case, in this particular New York case, the agent there from New York stated that it was impossible to duplicate the emails. That is what he told Horowitz. That is what the analyst told Horowitz. Not Peter Strzok, not the people in the Southern District of New York, not anyone else. The actual analyst from Quantico, Virginia, the actual guy who is the guy who sits down and figures out how to get this information off the computer. And he said because of the destruction of the metadata that he was not able to duplicate the emails. So what that tells us is that someone is lying. Either the analyst is lying, and someone did find a way to get the metadata, rebuild the metadata, and get into that information, or Comey's lying. There's no possible way, according to this analyst, that you could duplicate the emails because of the metadata had been played with, and it made it impossible for him as the analyst to go through and pull all this data, to copy all these things. So Comey is now telling us that they went through in 2 days and was able to duplicate all these email files and BlackBerry files, when in fact the analyst, the skilled guy, the analyst who actually works at the lab, said they weren't able to do it. So they weren't able to do it at the lab with the specialist, but Strzok and his girl and one other person were able to duplicate in 2 days. Sounds like a lie, but where does Horowitz leave it? Right there. He leaves it right there. Oh well, the analyst tells me that it would have been impossible to copy all those emails because of the damage to the metadata, but Strzok is telling us that, according to Comey's statement, that they were able to do that. Well, somebody's obviously lying. The IG report states that what caused the FBI to take action was inquiries from the Southern District of New York prosecutors, who were afraid that they would be scapegoated for a buried investigation. This is exactly what we had been learning, recently. Was the original story we heard was these FBI agents in New York were mad because they knew that they had turned the laptop over. They knew there was a lot of things on there that were very damaging, and they knew that the FBI, and Main Justice in D.C. were sitting on it. And they, these investigators and prosecutors in New York, thought, wait a minute, they're going to sit on this thing, and they're going to sit on it, and then in a few months from now, when it pops up and they can't hide the fact that they've got this laptop, or they had this laptop, they're going to come back and try to put it on us and scapegoat us. Ain't no way. That ain't going to happen. So what they did, and we know this from Devin Nunes, is that they contacted several different people, one of them being Devin Nunes' committee. And they came in and told him, hey, here's what's going on. There's this laptop, Anthony Weiner's laptop. We sent it to the lab at Quantico. And we know that it went there to Maine FBI. And they've had it for weeks. And they haven't done anything with it. And we're coming up on the election. And we think that what they're going to try to do is sit on it. And then maybe in a few weeks or a few months, when they get caught and it's found out that they have it, they're going to come out and probably, to cover their butt, they're going to probably try to blame us. And we are not going to be scapegoated. So we want you to know right now on the record exactly what happened. We subpoenaed that laptop. We took it to Quantico. They had issues with it because of the metadata being screwed up, but it was requested. They sent it over to the FBI, Strzok, and whoever has got it. And at that point, we know nothing more. So that is what really goes down. But the IG doesn't quite go there. The IG stops right here, where all he says was that the report states that what caused the FBI to take action was inquiries from Southern District of New York prosecutors who were afraid that they would be scapegoated for a buried investigation. So he doesn't give you the full backstory, which is the case through the entire IG report. He gets on the surface, but he never really gets below it. He has people lie to him all throughout the investigation, as you can see, and he even says a lot of times that he questions whether or not he's being told. But that's as far as he can go. He's very limited, the IG Horowitz. He cannot subpoena everything. We saw in the IG report several times he tried to subpoena things but was not able to get them. There are many individuals who he would like to have talked to, who he couldn't talk to because they no longer work at the FBI. Horowitz cannot talk to anyone who no longer works at the FBI. So there's a lot of problems with that, and this is why you have to have a presidential commission or a special counsel or something. And we'll get into that later. So that's very, very important. You know, there needs to be multiple special counsels, 2 or 3, 2 at least, one specifically just to look at this. So as we can see, there's a problem. Comey's telling us that in 2 days they went through all those tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, literally, of BlackBerry and email and text communications, despite the fact that the analyst himself that works at the lab said it couldn't be done, they couldn't be copied. There's a problem, and it's left hanging. It's just hanging. You know, he doesn't. That's the problem with this whole IG report. He never gets to it. He never hits the target. He dances all around it. He gets lied to. He gets put off. There's people he can't talk to. There's evidence he can't get. There's information he can't get. There's witnesses he can't get. All this. So he's kind of, he's working with limited capacity. Maybe did the best he could, but this is by no means should be taken as a thorough investigation. It was not a thorough investigation. Now, as I said on Tuesday, the Monday hearings, there might be something that comes out of that, but I wouldn't count on it. That's maybe Grassley will ask a few good questions, but Grassley is the only guy in the Senate Judiciary Committee that's worth the salt. So he's the only guy that might ask a few questions that might be pertinent. But on Tuesday, when they get to the Oversight Committee, you're going to have, and that will be Horowitz and No Shit Sherlock Christopher Wray. And they will be, the questioners will include Jim Jordan, John Ratcliffe, Ron DeSantis, Louis Gohmert, Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Steve King, and Mark Meadows, and of course the chairman, Mr. Goodlatte, Bob Goodlatte. So you got some really strong people, and I'm pretty sure a lot this particular issue we just discussed, which I'm sure they're looking at already, is going to be something they're going to dig into. And I think what we're going to find out at the end of these hearings on Tuesday is exactly what I'm telling you, is that the conclusion we will all reach is that Horowitz did his job as far as he's an inside the DOJ, FBI. His job is on the inside. He is a watchdog. Sort of an inside watchdog, but he's very limited in his capacity and his ability to subpoena witnesses and documents and various other things. He's very limited in his scope of what he can do. Not a real investigation. It's a fact-finding mission. And what he does is he unearths facts that he brings to light, and then it's like the top layer. Here's the things that need to be investigated. And then he relies on his report to go to the public, the Congress, whoever wants to look at it, and at that point it's up to them, it's up to whoever to decide what they want to investigate based on his findings. Horowitz did not do a criminal investigation. He did an inquiry to produce information, which gives us ideas on what things may need to be investigated. He gave 5 referrals for 5 people to be investigated, but he doesn't do the investigation. He says, from this report, I've decided that there's 5 people. You guys need to decide how you want to do it, but 5 people need to be investigated. FBI agents 1, 2, and 3, and attorneys 1 and 2. So this is really the long and short of it. To what we should be making of the IG report compared to what's out there in the media. The media is out there, including on Fox, acting as if this IG report was this big investigation. It's going to be the end all. This is all there is. This is this thorough investigation, a year and a half, 500 pages, blah, 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 blah. But that's not what this was. They're mischaracterizing what the IG does and what this report was. It's none of those things. This is only the first step. This is the beginning. This is where we just learn from the IG. And keep in mind, the IG report that we're seeing is the 4th draft. 4th draft. I'm pretty sure that members of this committee on the House Joint Committee on Tuesday are going to try to get their hands on the original draft by Horowitz. We're looking at draft number 4. What do you think's in draft number 1? We also learned that Peter's been stroking us downloaded the sealed indictment of Anthony Weiner's laptop on October the 29th, 2016, to his personal email account. This would be an unauthorized extraction of a sealed indictment and transmission to a non-secure system, and that is a felony. That is a felony. Peter's been stroking us download the sealed indictment onto his personal email. That is a felony, right there. And Horowitz tells us all about it, right there in the report. But that's all he tells us. He doesn't say, Peter's been stroking us committed a felony by doing the following. He doesn't say that. He just says, Peter's been stroking us did this. It's up to members of Congress and the DOJ and other people to look at that, to read that and go, okay, that is a felony. So we need to investigate that, or we need a criminal referral to Mr. Huber, or a criminal referral to Main Justice or some other FBI agency across the country somewhere. That's what that's telling us, and this is exactly what the Horowitz report is all about. He doesn't go through and say, here's a crime, needs to be indicted. Here's a crime, needs criminal referral. Here's a crime. He doesn't do that. He kind of gives us the play-by-play, but doesn't necessarily dig in and do a real investigation. He unearths some facts, some factoids that need to be investigated. The Horowitz report is what we use to decide what we need to investigate. It's not the end of an investigation. It was not an investigation really at all. It was an internal watchdog report. Here's a good question. Since the IG report came out, we learned about something we didn't even think about or talk about, was all the bribery that was going on with media organizations offering FBI and DOJ officials, probably intelligence officials as well, offering them all sorts of goodies in exchange for tips. Those are crimes. Those are crimes. They're violations of FBI and DOJ policy, certainly, but additionally, they are crimes. And if the information was classified, then of course that's additional crimes. But have you noticed that of all the things they're talking about in the media about the IG report, none of these media organizations, none of them are even talking about this particular bombshell, which kind of is a bombshell. None of them are talking about this particular issue that was brought up by the IG about all the gifts and all the bribery that was going on. In fact, he even says it's in this part of the IG report, that's the part where he talks about the fact that the reason that they decided that they couldn't investigate further is because there is so many bribes, so many people from the FBI and DOJ. It's not like there was just a couple of people, there's hordes of people within the media, within the FBI, the DOJ, who are exchanging tips for gifts and all these other things. It's so rampant, it's so massive that there's nowhere to begin. Apparently everybody's doing it. Yet no one in the media wants to talk about their role. They don't want to talk about that. You won't hear it anywhere for now. Believe me, it's coming back up. I'm pretty sure, again, these members I just mentioned on the House Joint Committee are not going to let that one go. It's the very first thing that they talk about in the IG report. It's one of the very first topics that comes up. Okay, moving on to a couple other things. Let's see. We have, this is nice, a new poll. 71% of liberals, people who identify themselves as liberal, 71% do not want peace with North Korea because it would help Trump. There you go. What more do you need to know? These are sick people. Uh-oh. More trouble for Saggy Daniels. That's right. Saggy has now just been slapped with her second lawsuit. She's already facing a defamation lawsuit, but now she's facing a lawsuit from a Chicago strip club owner who is suing Saggy for walking out of a show after only doing a couple of numbers. Apparently, she had a dispute with the contract, how much she was being paid. She showed up late, didn't show up for the rehearsal. She got nasty with some of the other dancers. She was a real pain in the ass. And then did a couple numbers and then walked out. And then on her way out, when they asked why she was leaving with an audience full of people, many people paying up to $600 a ticket, and those $600 tickets were like VIPs, and they were supposed to get to meet Saggy after the performance and maybe get some autographs or something. So they didn't even get a full performance, let alone getting to meet Saggy and get an autograph. Not sure why anyone would want an autograph from Saggy Daniels, but I guess there's some sick people out there who would find that something they would treasure. And you know, they had a couple pics that went along with that story showing her on stage, and I'm telling you, man, I don't know why anybody would pay to see this woman. I mean, she's not like a young woman anymore. She's, kind of a, I don't know what her age is, but she's probably, I'd say, over 40 or something. And there's a lot of women who are over 40 who are very attractive. But it looks like to me, just from the pictures, she needs to hit the gym. I mean, she's not only Saggy Daniels, she's Flabby Daniels. She's got flab on her belly, big thighs on her, big flabby thighs. It looks like to me that she doesn't hit the gym very often. And of course, those gigantic, fake, saggy boobs hanging down to her belly button, they're disgusting. God, who would want to pay to see that? I mean, you can go to your local mall, walk through the mall, and see much more attractive looking women than Saggy Daniels. I just don't get it. I just don't get it, man. So the problems continue for Saggy, and when she gets done, she's going to be bankrupt. This whole thing, just like I said, is going to backfire. She would have been better off to have kept her mouth shut and gotten on with her life. Although she's trying to promote a new line of sex toys and perfume, which I'm sure that'll be a big hit. Gender-neutral perfume. I mean, what the hell is gender-neutral perfume? What the hell? My goodness. Well, the Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, is still coming unglued. We have, let's see his latest tweet, commenting on Trump's latest tweet. We have John Brennan with the following. All Americans, not just your supporters, deserve a president who is honest, ethical, and substantive. Our country faces devastating domestic and international challenges. If there is a scintilla of decency left in you, you would focus on your responsibilities, not on yourself. Really, Mr. Potato Head? I don't know if you noticed, Mr. Potato Head, but they're getting ready to update the growth from this past quarter from what they believe to be 4.1% growth up to 4.8% growth. Under the person you served under, Mr. Potato Head, he told us that we would never again see anything better than 2% growth, that was the new normal. Dropping off hundreds of billions of dollars to the Iranians to bribe them to get rid of their nukes, which they're not going to do. But instead, we have President Trump actually solving a 70-year-old issue with North Korea. Will we be 100% successful? I don't know. But things are much, much better than they've ever been on the North Korean peninsula. Looks like to me, Mr. Potato Head, that President Trump is doing a fantastic job. And your crimes, Mr. Potato Head, are yet to be revealed. Oh, I know about them. It's just that I'm 6 months ahead of everybody else. That little 6-agency task force, Mr. Potato Head, that I've been telling everybody about, in about 6 months, they'll catch up, and they'll be talking about it, and they'll figure out that that was the source of the coup. Mr. Potato Head. Can't wait to see your tweets then. Yeah, Trump tweeted out also, he's calling for the rotten Reverend Clinton to be locked up. You see, yesterday I told you guys, do not get discouraged. You know, in that tweet, what did Trump say? He said, well, I defeated the Bush dynasty, I defeated the Clinton dynasty, and now, hopefully, am taking on the intelligence. That's what he said. He didn't say the FBI. He didn't say the DOJ. He specifically said intelligence. What does that tell us? Tells me that maybe Trump knows about that 6-agency task force. Maybe he knows where the root of all this is. He's way ahead of everybody, just like me. But he's knows that he has to let things play out, I guess, a certain way, or maybe it's a timing thing. He's probably got a plan. I'm pretty sure he does. But this tells you that Trump's not backing down at all. He's not going to let this thing go, and he's not going to. It's just we're going to have to maintain our patience and see what his plan is. I'm pretty sure he's got one. He always does. Trump's never a guy who's without a plan, is he? No, he's thinking this thing way ahead of where we are. But it's just funny that he didn't say he beat the Bush and Clinton dynasties and then say now he's taking on the FBI and DOJ. No, that's not what he said. He said he's taking on the intelligence, which means he knows it was the intelligence is where it began. Just as I've stated, in which I believe in 6 months from now, they'll all start to say, wow, 6-agency task force. Wow, that's probably where it all began. Oh, and Peter Strzok was part of that? Oh, my goodness. Then this is probably it. This is the kernel. Right. Which, if you'd have watched my video, you would have known 6 months ago. Well, the lunatic left has just had another one go down. Another one who's been mowed under. This comedian, this Jordan Kleppers, who is supposed to be the next big thing on the left-wing anti-Trump comedian circuit, they gave him his own show about a year ago. Don't know how long his show was originally contracted for, but it appears that the not funny anti-Trump comedian Jordan Kleppers' talk show has been canceled after only one season due to low ratings. It ain't selling. It ain't selling. Now, let's take a look at some more things from FBI agent number 1 and FBI agent number 2. Remember, these are the other two FBI agents, also a male and a female, also involved in a sort of relationship, I guess you would say. So here's just a couple things that I'm pretty darn sure that they're going to key in on Tuesday when they have Horowitz and Wray sitting in front of them. And it's a couple little jewels that are kind of buried in the IG report. So here's a couple little things, interactions, texts between FBI agents 1 and 2, male and female, also involved in an affair. So after interviewing the Right Reverend Clinton's personal IT staffer, and we can assume that that's Mr. Stone Tier, I think is the person we're talking about here. After interviewing the Right Reverend Clinton's personal IT staffer, agent number 1 says to agent number 2, ask how the interview went. Agent number 2 is asking agent number 1 how the interview went. And agent number 1 said, quote, lied his ass off. Lied his ass off. The Right Reverend Clinton's personal IT staffer lied his ass off. Then you get FBI agent number 1 says, even though he lied, ain't no one gonna do shit. He said, even though he lied, Clinton's IT staffer, ain't no one gonna do shit. Then we get FBI agent number 2 back to FBI agent number 1 going, man, you guys have a shitty task and a shitty environment to look for something conjured in a place where you can't find it for a case that doesn't matter and is predestined. Man, that tells you everything right there. It tells you that this entire thing was a dog and pony show that even these FBI agents knew. And they had to know it from the top down. These are not top people, okay? These are not top people. These are people like in the second tier. And they are joking, literally, about the fact that they're going through this entire dog and pony show that Clinton's IT staffer, along with Clinton and all her people, can sit and lie their asses off, and not a single one of them is going to be held accountable for it. And they all know that regardless of what happens, that the Right Reverend and all of her friends, who are all guilty as hell, are all going to be exonerated. None of them are going to be charged, because it's not a real investigation. It is a hoax. It's a cover-up. It's a fix. It's a sham. Now, I have a question myself for Mr. Horowitz. Oh, by the way, one last thing. Just another one of these headlines I picked up from today. Trump is now more popular than Obama, JFK, or Reagan were at their same time in their presidency. Think about that. Trump more popular than Obama, JFK, or Reagan. Unbelievable. He's doing a fantastic job, and we're winning. Boy, oh boy, wait till he really takes action and begins to uncover the plot, which I expect will happen right after the midterms. But let's keep moving. I do have a question for Horowitz. I'm not sitting on that panel on Tuesday, but if I were, here is a question I would ask Horowitz. Did he make a criminal referral to the Secret Service? Did Horowitz, I would say, Mr. Horowitz, did you make a criminal referral to the Secret Service based on the text by Peter Stokonis, where he said, we'll stop Trump from becoming president? When he's talking about stopping Trump from becoming president, that should have triggered a referral to the Secret Service. And remember, when I told you about the 6-agency task force, one of the groups involved was the Department of the Treasury. And who is it that's under the Department of the Treasury? The Secret Service. Secret Service. And I'll guarantee you, 99% sure, the people who were there from the Treasury Department were Secret Service, involved in the 6-agency task force. And I would want to know from Horowitz if he's made a referral to the Secret Service to investigate Peter Stokonis and his cohorts about the comment, we will stop Trump from becoming president. That could mean a bunch of different things. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. Goodbye.